All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 336 once again for episode 190, I believe, of the 815 Exchange. My goodness. All right, 190 episodes in, and we show no signs of slowing down. I guess that means I'm 10 episodes away from 200, and I have to come up with something special. But we might have some things cooking, but we will see. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. And as always, everything you're looking for can be found in the description. So timestamps, I get it. It's long form content. This is a long show. Feel free to skip ahead to whatever you're looking for. You want to hear me talk about March Madness. You want to hear me talk about collegiate wrestling and the Nationals this week. Or you want to, the entertainment segment. Boy, oh boy, do we have some things to talk about in the entertainment specter this week. So whatever it is, feel free to skip ahead. That is provided in the description alongside all of my social media links. So if you want to follow me there, feel free to. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get cooking. And normally, I don't usually start off with the NBA, but we're going to, conjoin this show today with both basketball. So NBA and college basketball, March Madness, as it deserves. We'll get the main event, but for now, let's go to the National Basketball Association because we have some things to talk about. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Jalen Green, former number 2 player in the class. Well, according to ESPN, he was number 1, but according to the 24/7 composites, a part of that lauded. What a class that ends up being potentially. Not even, we talk about it a lot because those, that's who's prominent right now in the women's game, especially in college basketball. But even on the men's side, it was a very lauded, a very hyped recruiting class with Cade, Scotty, Jalen, Sharif Cooper, Jacob, so on and so forth. A lot of really hyped guys coming out of that class of 2020. And Jalen Green, of course, ended up going to the G League Ignite, which got shut down. And then he ended up getting drafted number 2 by the Rockets. And he showed spurts, but a lot of his play with the Rockets hasn't been too great. He's fallen into that, what house do we ever say it besides the, the fear of a lot of people of what he might become, which is the glorified shot chucker that, is destined for a tanking team, to be blunt. But boy, oh boy, there was those glimpses of greatness from JG that he could continue to follow down that path of a young MJ, a young Kobe, of that archetype, a young Vince, right? He still showed those flashes of that greatness. And my goodness, have the flashes. I don't know what again, he said it was the baby, and maybe it was. I don't know what Drea has in her system, but it is working, all right? She might be coach of the year instead of Ime, because I don't know what happened and what she did to JG. But something about him becoming a dad has flipped the switch because Jalen Green is on a tear. And I'm not just talking about it. Last week, he was player of the week. He probably should, I'm going to be completely honest with you, win it again for last week. And I'm going to be honest, he should be player of the month, okay? JG is on a tear. Now, we've seen him go on a tear, to end off the past couple seasons. He gets better after the All-Star break. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he just gets comfortable or what it is. But this is different, all right? He is playing at a higher level than he ever has before, and it looks sustainable. And a lot of JG's game is his confidence, right? The little things have gotten better, right? His shot selection has gotten better this year. The playmaking's got better. He's stronger. He's finishing like he finished back in high school when he was younger. His athleticism and the talent is starting to catch up, right, to that professional level. He's starting to get comfortable. And, my goodness. It's just the confidence has been through the roof. We've had 5 straight games with a no-look 3, and he's just dropping 30 and 40 at will. He dropped 41 on the Wizards. His last 10 games, he's averaging 27 on 51, 41, and 78. That's 41% from 3. I think he's got almost a 60% true shooting. It's ridiculous. All right, JG is on fire, and not only is JG on fire, even with Şengün out, a lot of people thought maybe this is where the Rockets fall off. No, JG lifting up the Rockets. They've won 8 straight. They are now one game away from being in the play-in from the Warriors, who lost yesterday to the Nuggets. So yeah, Chef Curry, Steve Kerr, Clay, all of them. It might be a true end of the era if they're young Rockets with Şengün about to come back, with JG playing like this. One of the most exciting teams I've said multiple times, especially when JG's playing the way he is in the league. Amen Thompson, Fred VanVleet being the great vet that they needed. They are a dangerous team, man. They are looking like a very, very dangerous team and not a team I think anybody wants to play. Now, they did just go through a little weak stretch, in terms of the schedule, But nonetheless, they still, I think, the way they're playing, I think this is going to translate very, very well. And yeah, we'll see what happens after they just beat the Giants up like they did. So yeah, JG on fire. He's not the only young star on fire. All right, Zion Williamson is back to dominance. All right, past month, the Pelicans are 10-2. Zion's at 22-7, 5 and 61% from the field. He's looking healthy. He's jumping out the gym again. All right, he's in shape. He's no injuries. God bless. All right. And Zion and the Pelicans are looking dangerous. Even with BI just picked up an injury, Pelicans still in winning ways. They've had a great month of March, which has been very pivotal because they were kind of fighting. They were in the playoffs, but they were kind of fighting between that play-in and, getting out of that play-in. So, a lot of jockeying going on in the NBA. But yeah, the Pelicans, scorching hot. Zion, you'd love to see it. All right. You'd love to see it. He's looking like the franchise player he's supposed to be. They're winning a lot of games. They're looking very good. Pelicans could also be a very, very dangerous team. Imagine a healthy Zion if they can get BI back as well. A healthy Pelicans team with Zion playing the way he is in form in the playoffs, in this Western Conference this year. I mean, that could be spectacular. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Pelicans, Rockets, two of the young teams in the West scorching hot right now, looking very, very dangerous. Now let's talk about a couple very, very dangerous men. All right, because we're going to talk about NCAA wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's the first time I've ever given it, or maybe I've given it before, but the first time this year, I've given it its own main. And of course, that means it must be national championship time. And we have some people to talk about. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. We're going to go chronologically, the way it went down on Saturday evening. Starting off with the heavyweights. By the way, Penn State, I'm going to just go out and say it. My goodness, Cael Sanderson, the GOAT wrestler, right? The GOAT actually as a wrestler and also potentially on his way to being the GOAT coach. I mean, what? Build him a statue, all right? Cael deserves a statue somewhere. I don't care if it's at ISU or at Penn State. Cael needs a statue. But nonetheless, all right, Penn State breaks the team record for scoring. Not a lot of surprises there. I think a lot of people had that expectation for the Penn State team, but let's see how they fared out. How do they get there? Of course, we started off with the heavyweights. Greg Kirkvliet, all right, he's dealt with what? Mason Paris, Tony Cassiope, but before that he had the Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson before that, right? Heavyweight's been a bloodbath. All right, it's been a bloodbath, and even though Greg Kirk, he was the number one prospect, in terms of wrestling coming out of high school, very hyped. He had to wait his turn. It was his senior year this year. He finally looked like he flipped that switch. He was running through what is still a very, very, very good heavyweight, division in college wrestling right now with Bastida, with Wyatt Hendrickson, and of course Logan Davidson, who he ends up fighting from Michigan in this last match here in the national championship. And Kirk was still on a different level, 13-4, made it look like easy work at 285. He was the best heavyweight all year. He was the best heavyweight at nationals, and yeah, he is national champion. Well deserved. Long-time Kerman. Good job for Kirk. Richie Figueiredo took care of Drake Ayala. Nothing really too much to talk about there at 125. Richie, another guy that was very hyped coming out of high school. Felt like a lot of people thought he might be, a future 125 national championship contender. And he fulfilled that destiny on Saturday, getting it done against Drake. 7-2. Like I said, he was in control. He gets the title for Arizona State. Vito. All right, Vito and Dayton had the best match. My personal favorite match of even though it took 25 minutes, still was my favorite match. Of course, it doesn't really get much more decorated in terms of a national final, besides, I guess, one with multiple, national champions. But you got two, five-time All-Americans. Dayton's been runner-up at this point going into this fight 3 times. 3 times going into this match. 3 times he's been national runner-up. Could this be the year? Of course, Dayton Fix has turned villain as he is the old man, which, again, collegiate wrestling, I know the COVID years messed everything up, but, land of old men. All right, even Vito's 24, but Dayton is 26. All right, turns 27, I think, this year. Old man Dayton, still here, still trying to win a natty. Couldn't get it done. He had become the villain here in the Nationals, getting widely booed. He was just trying to ignore it. And yeah, he played a little bit of the villain here. Kind of got some points off some technicalities, some interesting stalling calls. I think crossed hands Vito got called for, made it 3-1. and then Vito just stormed back. All right, he was the more aggressive wrestler. It felt like when Dayton and Vito got in actual wrestling situations that Vito was the better wrestler on Saturday. It felt like he was the more offensive. Felt like he wanted it more. It felt like Dayton was just trying to survive for a lot of that, match. And I think that's what kind of ended up happening. A lot of drama at the end, whether it was a takedown, was it the 3, was it the 2, what about the reversal? And then it was chaotic. All right, but go rewatch it. Words can't do it justice. One of the best matches of the year. Well deserving of a 133 final. But yeah, Dayton ends up being a 4-time national runner-up. And Vito gets his second national champion, the former world champion. Will look to continue what has been a historic run the past 2 years for him in, U.S. Olympic trials and then maybe in the Olympics. So yeah, shout out to Vito. He gets it done versus Dayton in one of the best matches of the year. 141 with Bo Bartlett. Very similar to Dayton Fix, except he hadn't been, national runner-up, but I think once, maybe last year, if that. But Bo Bartlett, another member of that insane class that Penn State brought in 4 years ago with Carter Starocci, Aaron Brooks, who we'll talk about, both those guys very, very soon in this segment. Part of that Herald class, right? He was supposed to, be a part of that, triumvirate that brings national championships and continues to bring glory to Penn State. But it hadn't altogether clicked for Bo. Hadn't clicked. This year, thought maybe it might click. Lost to the Big Tens to Jesse Mendez, but made it, stormed back, looked good at nationals, and made it to the national championship where he got a rematch versus Mendez, and it came down to the wire, came down to the end, but Mendez was able to he was just that much better. He was just that much better than Bo, and unfortunately Bartlett will go, unless he comes back, will go win this in his Penn State career, as Jesse Mendez does take it home for Ohio State, gets them their first national championship since, in 3-4 years? It's been a little bit of a while for Ohio State, but yeah. Jesse gets it done in the final seconds, 4-1. He is the king at 41? Yeah, so congratulations to Mendez. Only a sophomore. He's going to be around. Caleb Henson, also only a sophomore. He's going to be around. He dominates Austin Gomez 15-7. All right, ran it up in the first, and that was all he needed. Wrestled it out. In Virginia Tech, Mekhi Lewis unfortunately had to face Starocci in the quarters, so you know how that goes, even with Starocci injured. But yeah, unfortunately, Mekhi couldn't get it done. I think he ended up getting third place. But they did have a national championship in Virginia Tech, so credit where credit's due to that program and for how they've been building. But yeah, Caleb Henson runs it up on Austin Gomez. He's able to get it done. The sophomore, another guy, going to be here a while. We're going to talk a lot about the sophomore class. We're going to keep it going. We're 157. Levi Haynes, widely regarded as the next one, at Penn State, that's going to win a bunch of championships. Well, he's 2 for 2. All right, 2 for 2. After the last couple of, matches we had where 15-7, high scoring with Henson and Gomez, Jesse and Bo going to the wire, very tense. Vito Dayton, a match of the year contender. Having this, with all due respect, Levi Timmer was kind of boring, to be blunt. All right, it was boring, but Levi got it done. Not necessarily his fault. I just don't think Timmer just kind of his game plan was to just try to outlast and then maybe get a point, make it as low scoring as possible, but it didn't work. Levi goes 2 for 2. He's going to be around. Carter Starocci, ladies and gentlemen. Not yet. David Carr. David Carr. David Carr. Took out Keegan O'Toole, who a lot of people thought was the pound for pound #1 collegiate wrestler, potentially. Hodge Trophy finalist. But he took him out. David Carr took him out, and ladies and gentlemen, he continues the great lineage of multi-champs in that Carr family, following up on his grandfather and his father, I believe. But yeah, David gets it done. He is king at 165 in his final year. Mitch Messenbrink, he's the future. All right, he's got next. It's going to be his. All right, this division will be his eventually. Just not this year, all right? Carr outlasts Messenbrink. Unfortunately, Mitch did not know the score at the end and did not know that David had that riding point, so didn't have the same urgency in that last couple seconds that maybe he could have to get the takedown. David was susceptible, only won 9-8, and like I said, on that riding point. So maybe he knows the score, things are a little bit different, but for now, Carr remains king at 165. What a career he had at ISU. Carter Starocci, finally. All right, the man has likely a torn, I don't know what it is. His knee is messed up. He didn't want to, say it. He said no comment to the torn ACL, but he does say he's going to be able to fight in April. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but Starocci, of course, missed Big Tens because of the knee injury, which seems to be very serious. So he got Drew a 9th seed. So he went through all the past national, went through Mekhi Lewis, went through Shane Griff, in the semifinals, 2 former national champions. And it ended up here. Would Starocci be able to be a 4-time? Would he can be able to fulfill what he said was his destiny? And ladies and gentlemen, Carter Starocci is in fact still him. 1 knee, 2 knee, doesn't matter. All right, he is still him by all means. Rocco Welsh, another guy, freshman, very talented from Ohio State. Maybe his time next year. This year, not his time yet. All right, Starocci skunked him 2-0. He outclassed him. He was just better. All right, we're going to talk about him and Aaron Brooks. They were just better. All right, they were just better on Saturday. Starocci 4-time. Parker Kirkson, all right, or Kexon, should I say, from UNI, Northern Iowa. He becomes their first national champion. Parker does. Taking out Dustin Plott, he smoked them 14-5. Listen, when Parker, it was kind of like Aaron, then Parker, then everybody else at 184. And when Aaron moved up, cleared the pathway. All right, Parker, he was just a little bit better. Honestly, should be a Hodge Trophy finalist. He was dominant this year. I don't think he lost. So yeah, shout out to Kexon. Did a great job. Was one of the best personalities, by the way, in the interviews all week. So yeah, congrats to him and UNI. And of course, the Hodge Trophy belongs to Aaron Brooks. Simply put, all right, Trent Headley is a fantastic wrestler. He was not on Aaron Brooks' level. Nobody has been on Aaron Brooks' level, frankly, for the past 4 years. And he also becomes, listen, there's never ever been 2 teammates, and we may never see this again. 2 teammates both go 4x4. All right, both go 4 for 4. No Wendy's. Starocci and Brooks, statue worthy. 2 of the greatest to ever do it. They cement their places. Aaron Brooks, though, dominant. I mean, he literally won most dominant wrestler at the Nationals, won most outstanding wrestler. Nothing else to say. He's the Hodge Trophy, pound for pound king, and he could be a very serious threat at 97 kilos for the Olympic trials. We will see what happens, though. That is a very stacked, U.S. wrestling is no joke. All right, especially with the talent that's come up the past couple of years. So it's going to be very competitive. We'll talk about that, when we get to it for that episode. But for now, Aaron Brooks, Penn State, Kale, Starocci, they still run the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. All right, a slight cool down, unofficial sponsor for today, Low Pro. I have to give a shout out, new camera bag. So if you see me walking around with this glorious thing, all right, shout out to Low Pro. It's fantastic. Plenty of compartments open inside. We got, 2 levels of stuff where we can put SD cards, batteries, and even space for different lenses. Very small, very compact, very lightweight. I like the straps as well. Very, very comfortable. Had to give a shout out to Low Pro, unofficial sponsor of today's episode of the 815 Exchange. Entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. Entertainment, boy. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. But first, we got to handle business. I'm halfway through Roadhouse, by the way. We'll talk about it next week, all right? We'll talk about it next week. Halfway through Roadhouse. It is an experience. I don't know how to feel about this movie yet. But, the fight scenes are good. All right, they're good. But we're only halfway through. Invincible, episode 6? Yeah? Episode 6, season 2. He survived. Which, by the way, I knew Rex survived. I actually forgot how he survived. But I forgot he's basically has one of the best title cards, by the way, we've had it, Invincible. Basically Invincible. But yeah, Rex, he survives the bullet to the head, thugs it out. What a savage. Shout out to Rex. That was a brutal kill with his stub. But yeah, Rex survives. He's a G. Love Rex. What a redemption arc he is on. Shrinking Ray surviving was shocking because he is actually gender bent. In the comics, he's a man. He dies. When he gets eaten, he's dead, right? He doesn't come back. I was very surprised to see her survive. I don't know if she's going to continue to live, or if she's just going to be on, dialysis, and this is still kind of an example. I prefer if she, even though I like, cool character, but I prefer if she dies just for the emotional weight, and it feels like too much of a little bit of a cop-out. And if you've read the comics, you understand why it's important for somebody to die in that specific scene because of the emotional weight, because of certain events around that scene. If you know, you know. But I prefer if she died, even though I was still glad to see her, survive. But had that this week. Mark and Amber, despite being good, are not good. At the same time, they're starting to crumble with Mark trying to juggle all of his responsibilities. They just don't have time for each other. You can sense the separation starting. Mark and Eve are... The sexual tension, I mean, my goodness. All right, it's getting out of hand. A lot of sexual tension, by the way, in the two shows I'm talking about this week. But yeah, you're starting to see maybe a potential rise of the relationship there. So yeah, we'll see what happens and how they go about that. Alan and Mark, the comic books. Alan came to get Mark. Mark was like, I can't leave, but I can't give you these books that I found out that my dad he wrote about the ways to beat the Vulturemites. So we will see what happens there. A very necessary episode of Invincible, cuts back on the action a little bit, still gave us a little bit of it, but it helped push the narrative forward, which I think is what is needed when we only have, I think, 2 episodes left in the season. So yeah, Invincible, another great episode, best show on television right now. I watched The Gentleman. All right. Worth the hype, for sure. Worth the hype. Theo James was great. Kaya was great. All right. Giancarlo Esposito plays a smarmy villain better than anybody else in television. All right. He's so good. All right. He's so good. But gentlemen, very, very good to see Eddie's kind of journey taking over as the Duke and falling more into the things. Him and Susie have so much. All right, I can't not talk about it. Him and Susie, and I respect Guy Ritchie for not going fully into the romance, at least here in season 1. They have ridiculous amount of sexual tension. I don't know if that was deliberate or if it was just Theo and Kaya's chemistry. I'm sure it probably was, but I mean, it is just a ridiculous. I mean, you can literally visually see the sexual tension. All right, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I mean, it just nothing happens besides that one glimpse during that party scene of them kind of being a little flirty, but it's just a absurd amount of sexual tension in The Gentleman between those two characters. We'll see what happens, but I want a season 2. I want the journey to keep going. Very good show. Cool to see Guy Ritchie kind of jump into the show space. So yeah, instead of the movie. So yeah, very, very good. Highly recommend The Gentleman, Netflix if you haven't seen it already. Oh boy. We Don't Trust You. Now, I thought this was just the title was, I thought it was just hey, playing on the, Future and Metro, the classic, tag, if Young Metro don't trust you, I'm going to shoot you. I thought it was just playing off that, cool little title for the album. I didn't know it was a diss. I didn't know this is where we were going. By the way, this might be the best album of the year, and it might be the Magna Carta for Metro Boomin and for Future. Respectfully. One of the best albums, potentially of the decade. I'm going to give this not a 10. It may retroactively become a 10, but I'm not going to give it a 10. I'm going to give it a 9.7. This may be the album of the year. In March. I don't know if anything's touching it, and they might got one more to spin. But, oh my goodness. Absurdly good transitions, everything you would expect. Future at his highest form, Metro being the best producer of this generation. What you would expect. What I did not expect was Kendrick. Not just because I didn't expect him to show up, because you know how Kendrick does. As much as I love K-Dot, he shows up, every 5 years, drops a good album, potentially a great album, and then we never hear from him. He looks off to go be with his family. Which, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. In the general scheme of things, he's an artist. He's going to do what he does. As long as he keeps giving us good music, no complaints. But he F's off. You might get a feature verse, feature verse, every here and now. Maybe. Once every 2 years during the hiatus. So I did not expect him to hop on like that. And I did not expect the subject matter of like that at all. I knew Drake and Metro had a little falling out or whatever. I did not expect Kendrick to come after not just Drake. A lot of people talking about, which of course, because Drake is Drake, right? Let's be real. All right, even if you don't like Drake, Drake is Drake. He's head of the table with respect to if Roman reigns, right? To our tribal chief, acknowledge him. All right, Drake is Drake. Naturally, he's gonna, comes with the throne. But I did not expect him to go at Cole too. So when he uttered the words, first person shooter should better come with 3 switches, I was like, nah. And not only that, it was one of the best verses of the year. All right, one of the best verses of the year. Even though it was dissing the other 2 members of the Big Three, which I mean, speaking of the Big Three, he said, F the Big Three, it's just Big Me. My favorite line, as much as I like Mike Jack, was the Prince outlives Mike Jack, because that's just ruthless. All right, Drake being Michael, obviously in this situation. Prince, Kendrick. If you can't, do the simple math there, not even besides just the analogy of, Drake, mentioning Mike a lot, Future with Mike, but the simple fact of Mike is the bigger superstar, has all these records, all the acclaim, blah, 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 blah. He's my MJ, right? Drake is Drake. Drake is that kind of, in that stratosphere. And then you have Prince, similarly, superstar, but we praise Prince less on the superstardom and more on his creativity and his artistry and all the instruments. Same thing with Kendrick, right? Superstar, considered one of the top, right? One of the greatest ever. But we appreciate the artistry. We appreciate that a lot more than we do for maybe MJ or for Drake in this sense. So yeah, that was my favorite of the diss lines from Like That, which was an absurd track and probably one of the best songs of the year. Young Metro featuring The Weeknd just crooning was also fantastic. I think the MV for that dropped as we speak. 9.7. Just a ridiculous album. A ridiculous. And we might have another one, which I don't know how they're going to top this one without just, it might get out of control. If Future drops another album of the year contender back to back like this, we might have to have uncomfortable conversations about him maybe being added to the big, I guess Kendrick said after big three, but we're still calling it the big three. All right. Of course, now the world is waiting on what Drake and Cole are going to say. Because I very so doubt that they're going to let that slide. I don't think we're going to get an immediate, I think everybody's like, oh, he responded to Meek. The man is on tour. Bro is on tour. All right, he's not just sitting at home hearing this. He's on a full-fledged in the middle of tour. Cole is in the middle of an album, so that, suits him better. But we're probably going to have to wait till the fall off for an official response to that. But I very much so doubt that they're going to let that slide. Cole from just a competitive standpoint. Drake, because Drake very seldomly lets anything slide. He's the petty king, the overseer of many things. And y'all have already deduced many of the stuff he said about Future, apparently, in previous, exploits on her loss and wherever. So, yeah, we gonna see what happens. But my goodness, the rap civil war has begun. I got Jid in that Keem war, though. I'm just saying. I think Jid's gonna wipe Keem if that goes down. But yeah, we have the rap civil war now. On the flip side of things, Tyla, one of the most beautiful women in the world, also one of the most talented young musicians in the game today. She dropped her debut album, Tyla, self-titled. Very, very good. I'm not going to give it an official rating yet, but it's going to be like high 8s. It was very, very good. Very, very, very good. She stayed true to her origins, to the Afro beats, right? To that South African culture, the South African music. To Tyla, that was before, the blow up, before Water. Stay true to that while also incorporating the different elements, her evolution as an artist. And I think she did a really good job here in her debut. Jump was fantastic. That could go in the club any day of the week. Feat Gunna and Skillibeng. On My Body, feat Becky G was also fantastic. That I did not expect Becky and Tyla to mesh like that. But by the way, Becky is just almost like a chameleon in terms of these features. The one with BB earlier in the year was also fantastic. But yeah, Tyla, very good. Pour one out for Kai. I'm hoping that was just a skip, my brother, or that was ruthless. All right, but you had to have known better. CALYPSO, Pen Griffey, back again. And he's back in a big way. I need that album, Bryson. I need that album. I need it. Whatever She Wants was still a bigger hit, I think, than CALYPSO, obviously. But still another great track from Pen Griffey, Bryson Tiller, back in full effect. Not that he ever left. But stop sleeping. All right, stop sleeping. Some of y'all still sleeping. Stop sleeping. It's still good music. But yeah, entertainment, what a weekend. Especially music, all right? Besides Tyla and Tiller, just the rap civil war kicking off. It's just, my goodness. K-Dot, you are a menace. A menace. And Metro, you're not slick. You barren see my mother. All right. Yeah, it's March. It is, boy, is it March. Woo. It is March. What did I tell y'all? I said I'm not making no predictions. I'm not doing it this year. No. Even though for the records, all right, I picked UConn and Creighton. Just for the records in case they do pull it out. Here you are. There you go. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, where do we even start? We're going to start with the men's game. And I guess we have to start with the classic, because it always happens, right? It always happens. Every year it happens. One team is starting to happen to a little bit more often than usual, but every year it happens, right? one cold white boy that only shoots threes, that is probably going to be somebody's accountant in 2 years, shoots the lights out and upsets one of your Final Four teams, one of the top contenders, some team that's inexplicably might even win the conference, 1, 2, or 3 seed, but some cold white boy who only shoots threes, future accountant, future doctor, just gets ridiculously hot, and it's the most fearsome thing in March Madness. I mean, it's a terrible experience to be on the other side of it because there's just nothing you can do to stop it. There's nothing you could do to stop it. And ladies and gentlemen, for Kentucky, there was just nothing they could do to stop Jack Kohicki from taking over the game. There was nothing to be done. Nothing to be done. It was too late. By the time they thought about it was too late. If he got the ball, it didn't matter. There was a nice picture. I can't find it. But if you just look back at some of the angles in which he took some of those threes, ridiculous. He was shooting side cash. Nothing but cash. Nothing but cash. You had to deny him the ball. You had to guard him like they guarded Steph when he gets hot. You just can't let him get the ball because if he got the ball, it was going in. And unfortunately, Kentucky is the biggest victim of week 1 here in March Madness, as it got mad in Oakland, not the one from Cali, but the one from Michigan. Get it done and get the upset, the 3-14 upset. They win 80 to 76. Now, a lot of credit to Jack. Okay? He was phenomenal in this game, obviously. 10 threes. All right, the man hit 10 threes, 32 points. Like I said, he was the cold white boy that only shoots threes. It's the most terrifying prospect. He was the most dangerous man in the world, all right, for a week. For 7 days, he's the most dangerous man in the world, and that is who it was. All right, it was Jack Kohicki. All right, Trey Townsend, by the way, also a dog. 17 and 12. Shout out to his pops for being also a photographer. But Kentucky, we need to have uncomfortable conversations. Like I said earlier in the year about Kentucky and about Coach Cal. All right? Uncomfortable conversations. And we're going to have it right now because Cal is 1-4 in his last 5 games in the NCAA tournament. You've won 1 title. 1. All of the talent, all of the Kentucky guards, all of it, you've won. It's a very hard thing to do in college basketball, but you won 1 title 11 years ago. I get he brings in talent. I get he brings in money. I get the recruiting classes are still just as good as ever, which we about to talk about. But at a certain point, he don't got it no more. He don't got it no more. Even with the failings of this team, which you could also say, maybe he's not developing guys the same way anymore. At a certain point, how much longer are you going to put up with Italian Doc Rivers with the results not coming in? Love what Cal did. He's a legend of the sport. One of the best in the modern era to ever do it in the modern era. This century. But at a certain point, it's time. And I'm going to be honest, I think it might just be Cal's time. I know that's an uncomfortable situation for Kentucky because the money, the lifetime contract, for all the factors, but it might just be time. How much longer do you want to continue this before the mystique just wears off? Because it's going to wear off, right? Roy Williams got off before it weared off. Coach K got off before it weared off. All these they got off before it weared off. Boeheim didn't really get off before it wore off. It was kind of gone before he decided to leave. Is that what Coach Cal's going to be? Y'all going to start to fall slowly down and down. The standard's going to lower and lower and lower. Y'all going to get used to the failures. Right? You're not going to be Kentucky anymore. Are y'all cool with that? Because you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. Love Cal. But it's time. It's time. It's time to pass the reins or find somebody to, be the hair. Another thing. How many times have I said this draft is garbage? Okay? I say it every week probably. Every time we talk about college basketball or the NBA draft this year, it sucks. I don't like the draft this year. And I'll say it again. If I had a top pick, I would trade it away. Not to say this is probably going to be one of those drafts where like a Jokic or a Giannis in like the second round just ends up, shooting up and is the guy. But I don't like any of these dudes. I don't. As a top pick, no. All right. And Kentucky had 3 different players, right, 3 different players, 3 different freshman guards on this team that have been projected to be the number 1 pick this year. 3. Did any of them show up to this game? Did any of you watching, did any of them show up to this game? I saw Rob Dillingham for 1 play. Besides that, he was shooting them out of the game, which is the bad side of Rob. He was the best of them, if you want to call it best, which is not really a high bar. He went 2 for 9 and had 10 points. Not great of, your star guard. Not great. As much as I love Rob, 704. Want him to be wish the best for him. But he didn't show up. He wasn't the worst, though. Reed Shepherd just choked, to be honest. Love Reed's game, plays it the right way, yada, yada, yada. He choked. Just be blunt. He choked. Reed choked. Straight up. 3 points. 1 for 5. You were the projected number 1 pick last week. Don't know about that. Don't know about that. 3 points when it matters? Choked. Sold the game at the end? Oh, but the worst of them, and we've given him a pass for whatever reason, has been DJ Wagner. Former number 1 overall recruit in the country. Nearly went wire to wire, by the way, from his sophomore to senior year. Wire to wire. Has been given a pass. He scored 0 points. Was a liability last week. Again, in this game against Oklahoma, a liability. He shouldn't go. He shouldn't go anywhere near the draft. I don't care how good of a defender y'all claim he is. Shouldn't be anywhere near the draft. Choked. All of them. Choked. Oh, but don't worry. They weren't the only freshmen, by the way, even though we were just talking about Kentucky, right? Baylor yesterday. All right? Sweet 16 on the line. They're facing Clemson, who I definitely didn't think. I mean, nobody thought. By the way, the ACC went 8-1. Can I get some ACC respect in the building, ladies and gentlemen? Can I get some ACC respect? All right? Jacoby Walter, another guy, highly regarded, 5-star prospect. What happened when it mattered? Played a really a solid game overall, honestly. But when it mattered, what did the freshman class, this lauded freshman class, who everybody's tried to say, maybe this guy, none of them. Walter, when it mattered, had a chance to tie the game. 86-84, I believe, was the score, if I remember correctly. Missed both free throws, which has been a reoccurring theme from him the past month, honestly. Choked when it mattered, and Baylor loses the game. Loses the game, hurts my bracket, but loses the game. None of these freshmen are ready. Not a single one of them. Nobody internationally, because they're all injured currently, funny enough. Rasher, Topic, all of them. All injured. Sar. Nobody's ready. I hate this draft. March Madness has done nothing but just prove me right. Cody Williams, same thing. All right? But let's talk about some other stories. All right? Like Oregon. Oregon and their miracle run, yeah? Oregon getting really, really hot, and then it just all falling down. But I got to give my respects to Cruzard and Nadole Fonte. Dante and Cruzard could not be stopped. South Carolina. Listen, it was basically a 2-man game, and they almost 2-man themselves into the Sweet 16. All right? They give Creighton, by the way, like I said, one of my picks. Gave them all types of problems. All right, so I got to give some credit to Dante and Kuznard. I think they combined for like 70 and 30 and 80 and 40. It was something ridiculous. All right, they were carrying Zach Edey. Said Purdue is not going out like that. He has been every bit Edey. He had 30 and 20 against the Grambling. But normal stuff from him. That's what we expect. That's what we expect. Duke did not choke, to my surprise. Jared McCain was a big reason why. He had 8 threes yesterday against the Dukes of JMU, who pulled off the upset on Wisconsin, who duped everybody after beating, Purdue, that, they might be good. But, of course, that was not the case. That was just not the case. Wisconsin was still very much so Wisconsin. So they crashed out, all right? They crashed out, unfortunately, as expected. It was not a good week for my Charlotte boys, for my friends, Ali Khalifa and BYU. That was a rough day on Twitter. Bryce Williams in Nebraska unfortunately got murked by Texas A&M, who then played a very, very exciting game against Houston yesterday. Went down to the wire, one of the best games of March Madness so far. But Wade Taylor actively, terroristically shot Texas A&M out of that game. That was criminal, right? That was criminal. Let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. That was criminal, what happened yesterday to Texas A&M, all right? That was, I get being the guy, I get trying to win the game, but that was one of the most egregious examples of hero ball that I can recall. okay? Especially in that second half and in that overtime period, egregious. Wade Taylor threw. I mean, it was almost Ohtani. Well, let's talk about Ohtani in the roundup, yeah? But 5 for 26, 3 for 13 from 3. It was bad, bro. It was bad. He's been a good player for them for a while, but my goodness, the hero ball killed Texas A&M, especially when you had somebody like Radford who went 27, 15, and 6 as a guard, okay? Put the ball in his hand. All right, put the ball in his hand, let him make something happen. You know, anybody but, you know, Wade Taylor just jacking up shots, which ends up killing them in the men in Houston. It's a very big win. It moves on. UConn looks dominant. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting. Had some very good games, though. Chaos ensued. All right, NC State made it through. Kept hot. The Dukes got hot. Unfortunately, ran into Duke. Oregon made some moves happen, but yeah, it's not gonna stop. All right, Sweet 16 is probably still gonna be very, very mad. But the men's bracket, you know, Kentucky embarrassed themselves. To be very blunt, all right, they embarrassed themselves. The women's game has also been very, very spicy. Okay, very spicy. Virginia Tech. Let's just kick it off with that. Before I talk about the stars, and I guess I'm talking about a star here. Fortunately, they lose to Baylor. Very good game, by the way. But you just know, if Liz didn't have that torn ACL, things would be different. But unfortunately, the Queens of Castle have, you know, come to a close, unfortunately. Baylor gets the win. Credit where credit's due to them at the end of the day. They showed up. They got it done, regardless of, you know, Liz's injury. Virginia Tech played them tight. G could have shot a little bit better, but, you know, hey. End of an era, though, for Kenny Brooks and Virginia Tech. Rumors about him potentially leaving. Of course, we got G and Kitley and Kayla, you know, everything they've done for that program. So, yeah, credit where credit's due. But, yeah, Virginia Tech, unfortunately, it ends like that. Duke upsets Ohio State in the Celeste Taylor reunion game. That's a brutal way for your college career to end, is to lose to the team you transferred from. I mean, that's just brutal. All right, JC Sheldon, by the way, went out like a G. All right, she went out like a G. Credit where credit's due to JC, Ohio State legend. She went out like a G. It wasn't her best game by any means, but, you know, she went out with her pride in that second half. Only had 13, but, like, you know, made some big shots, started making some plays, but it was too little too late. Duke, by the way, are building something. Now, that's not me being biased. They are building something over there in Durham. Cara Lawson is cooking. Richardson had 28. That was a big reason why Duke was able to pull off the upset on Cody McMahon, who had 27, but it was not enough. Duke gets the upset. They're going to the Sweet 16. South Carolina butchered UNC. I don't even want to talk about that because that was a snuff film. But let's talk about the stars. Yes, the stars. Because Middle Tennessee had... listen, you know, I got to hold my tongue a little bit now. It's been a chaotic week for LSU, whether it was the Mulkey and the Washington Post or even just, you know, the way this game went for Middle Tennessee. They have not looked good. LSU is not. They have not looked good at all through the first 2 weeks, but they won. And a lot of this tournament is survival in advance. So, you know, you'll take it. But LSU has struggled mightily. They struggled mightily here against Middle Tennessee State and did get a little bit of home cooking from the refs, to put it very slightly. I'm not saying it was fixed, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, that was very lopsided from the refs. They do get the win. HVL gets benched, which I will reiterate that her transferring to LSU was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen transfer-wise. On paper, it looked good, but just in execution has been an all-time bad move. She has killed her draft stock and really killed her confidence. And I don't know if we're ever going to see HVL at the same level she was last year at Louisville. So, yeah, just a bad decision, and LSU just seems destined to get upset. Of course, Angel going back and forth with the refs. She wasn't the only one. By the way, there was a really, really good story on Caitlin Clark. I want to get the author of this because I want to give him a shout-out because he deserves this. A big shout-out for this profile by Wright Thompson. Okay, one of the best profiles I've ever read. It's kind of long, but highly recommended. ESPN Wright Thompson about Caitlin Clark provided a lot about her psyche and why she acts the way she does, and, you know, how she's trying to overcome some of the things that we see about her. So, like the attitude, right? Which a lot of people, she's a heel. I'm going to be completely honest. The only reason that Kaylin is not a villain currently, if we're doing like heroes and villains, the only reason she's not a villain, and she's a villain to some parts of the country already, is because she's the best. And it's like, she's a groundbreaker, right? She's a trailblazer. So she's looked for and looked at in like a favorable light. But once she gets, oh, she's a villain. She's a complete villain. Her play style, the complaining to the refs, it's villainous. She's in that same vein. If you'll read the article, by the way, the piece, she's in that same sociopathic like mentality of MJ and Kobe. It's the same. Which for non-competitors and people that don't understand people like that, it's probably like, yo, this is not a good person probably, but that's just how she's wired. She's one of them. All right, she's one of them. She had a very rough game against Holy Cross. She's had a couple. She hasn't been, and I think that's important for Iowa. She needs to get back efficient. She hasn't been efficient in a very long time. I don't know if it's frustration or it's burnout or what it is with Caitlin right now, but she hasn't been in rhythm, which is crazy because she just had a triple-double. But she hasn't been in rhythm. She needs to get in rhythm today because they play and they could get upset, all right? Their careers are at the stake. But, of course, she was very loudly complaining to the refs. Her dad told her to shut up at one point. So, yeah, we had that whole situation. Cam Brink yesterday going back and forth with Audie Cooks from Iowa State, who had 40. Broke the freshman record for the NCAA tournament, all right? The big girl. Very promising. Only a freshman, like I said. Her and Cam Brink basically bounced each other out in one of the best games of either tournament so far. Stanford versus Iowa State. Kiki Irafin is that girl. She is going to be that girl next year. Boy, all right? Might be Paige and then Kiki, to be honest. All right, she had a 40 piece yesterday, 41 to be exact, to lead Stanford. But yeah, Brink told the ref exactly how she felt about him after she fouled out, bringing a little bit of controversy. So yeah, everybody except for Paige, who just dominated this week for UConn, has been stirring the drama a little bit in the women's game. But yeah, Ayoka Lee. By the way, Colorado beat Kansas State in that Iowa bracket, which I think is very, very, very interesting. Of course, we got a lot of Sweet 16 games going on today that I won't be able to talk about. But for that first half of that bracket yesterday, very, very spicy. We're going to see women's game. It's about to get real hot. The first weekend belonged to the men, all right? This next weekend, the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 is going to belong to the women. I'm going to say it right now. It's going to get very, tensions are rising. To quote Drake, tensions are definitely rising in both NCAA tournaments, but especially in the women. I think this is about to get very, very, very interesting. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us, of course, to the Roundup. Yes. The Roundup. Forza Ferrari. Forza Ferrari. All right, Forza Ferrari. The unbelievable happened, ladies and gentlemen. Max Verstappen is not going to go 24 for 24 because his car literally stopped working and his brakes caught on fire. After he took pole in Australia, the one bane of his existence came back to haunt him. And for the first time since 2 years ago in Australia, Max DNFs. So that opened up everything, and Sainz had the second best car, and he dominated. All right, the smooth operator, no appendix, no problem. He gets it done in Aussie, and it's a 1-2 for Ferrari. Like I said, Forza. Charles gets second. Lando gets third. I really like that podium. Very comfortable podium. It's like Carlos and friends, right? His two favorite teammates, Charles and Lando. So, Also, Oscar got fourth. So, Ferrari and the McLaren, taking over with Red Bull out of commission. I think Checo got like 5th or 6th. So, he still got points, but nothing crazy. Ricardo is washed. Yuki is up. What else happened in that race? Oh, yeah, Lewis went out. I was very scared for Fernando because I was like, oh, is it all the world champions? But yeah, Lewis also, his car shuts down. So no Lewis, no Max. And then to, put a stamp on any Carlos Sainz win, George Russell has to crash. So on literally the last lap of the race, George got brake checked, I guess, by Fernando, had a veer off, lost control of the car, he wrecks, and he was out. So Mercedes, a nightmare. Ferrari, bliss. Forza. Willie B wins Coda. Very solid race, The road courses have been surprisingly welcome probably for a lot of oval enthusiasts in NASCAR. The road courses have actually been pretty entertaining, especially lately. I don't know if it's the change up of the car or what it has or the skill level of the drivers, but yeah. Reigning champion gets it done at Coda. Willie B gets it done. Kyle and Seabell, a little spice before from former teammates there. It was really the whole weekend had a couple for NASCAR, which road courses tend to have with the contact and the driving. So yeah, Kyle and Seabell have some choice words after the race, but Willie B gets it done. We had a UFC fight night this week. Rose Namajunas gets the win over Amanda Ribas. She gets the UD. Rose looked okay, to be generous. I don't think she's going to win a world champion. She's in a weird spot. She's kind of like a gatekeeper, but not a gatekeeper. It's weird. All right, it's weird, but yeah, Rose gets the win. Shout out to Doug Rose. USC is up. Eric Henderson got a shout out from Aaron Donald, and we got every defensive line or linebacker recruit we could ever want for the class of 2025 literally yesterday. Justice Taylor, the most prominent, the 5-star, going to USC, big for us, fight on. We also got like 3 other commutes on that defensive side of the ball, so look like we're trying to make some changes, which I think we're going to need, obviously, going to the Big Ten, and just if USC wants to be taken serious for all of the offensive genius and talent that he's able to bring in on that side of the ball. Lincoln Riley, we do need that defense and to make us national championship contenders and a serious team. So, yeah, big moves there. Got to keep that commitment from Juju, though. Got to. USA. It's not even a rivalry at this point, bro. 2-0. When's the last time we even lost to Mexico? All right, we win a 3rd straight Nations League. Mexico can, shout puto or whatever racist or derogatory or sexist chant they want or homophobic chant they want. It doesn't matter. 2-0 again. USA whoops up on Mexico again. Tyler Adams is him again. Gio Reyna scores against Mexico again. And USA, like I said, Captain America's raising the Nations League high again. Go America. We're them. All right. L3. All right. Hold that, Mexico. Hold that. 2-0. And of course, I almost forgot. Shohei Ohtani is either literally Michael Jordan of baseball or Nagy is a scumbag. And I don't really know at this point because there's a lot of uncertainties within his entire story that just continues to keep developing. But yeah, Nagy got fired. That, of course, is Shohei's translator that we've all seen. He gets fired for placing millions of dollars in gambling debts or in just bets in general. And first the story was Shohei knew and then he bailed him out. And then the story became Shohei didn't know. So I don't really know. All right, and then we came out a bunch of things about Nagy. He didn't go to school, and he's not actually a good translator. So it's a very fishy situation. Like maybe Nagy took the fall. Maybe Ohtani is just like Jordan, just like Bruno Mars, and he has a gambling issue, and we just saw one of the great cover-ups. Or maybe Nagy is a scumbag. I don't really know. We're just all speculating, but yeah, a very funny story and a very interesting story to kick off. After a lot of people, it's funny because we had them, the Dodgers and the Padres playing in Korea, right, this past week. And that was the first official game of the regular season, even though they have to come back and play preseason games, which is crazy to me. But we had that, and it wasn't like front page because it was in Korea, right? It's in the dead of the morning, and we have March Madness going on. So it's not the top story on ESPN. So a lot of baseball fans took issue with that. So it was like the monkey paw just like, it really wrapped up. And in turn, we got this Ohtani story. So y'all had that front page. So, hey, y'all wanted them to talk about baseball. There you go. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all for episode 190. I hope you enjoyed. But without further ado, Ocho signing off.